What's up with y'all? My body look weird. Big ass tank tops. But no. Hold on. I don't really like NASA because they lie, and I don't really like liars at all. So that being said, that I don't like liars, I don't really like NASA. But they still tell you the truth to a certain extent. But this jacket, kind of keep me warm. That's the whole key. And really, I'm seizing NASA pretty soon. Shit would be mine. All right. So that being said, I'm gonna wear this jacket because the coordinates, right? The coordinates is tied to where it is. So look, I was just making a video on Gematria, right? Because this one like 2021, I think. Because it's gonna be kind of, it's like 2021, 2022. So I had a little something called Xenobots, right? I've been breaking that down. But look, this is what I got from the message, right? Because really, you have to use intuition to match up the numbers and all this. This is a real life message for you. So look, embryos, ZZR, Charlotte, North Carolina, all CNI, Xenobots, Zombie Control, Master Plan, Vatican, December, didn't say, but December, the next December month is actually June. So, and that ties to the second resurrection day, which is around my birthday, to like June 2nd, something like that. So Zombie Control, Master Plan, Vatican, December, the total eclipse. So the total eclipse was supposed to be happening next year, 2024, but we experienced the energy for 6D settling. And now that it seems calm, right? You ain't been seeing too much or hearing too much like that, unless you're not paying attention to it. It's never calm. It's never going to slow down. If it does slow down, it's because of a lunar eclipse. But the thing is, we're on a rise. So that being said, it's only going to get hotter, like real fast. The only thing that's been interrupting it is them with sub-zero technology. The reason why the West Coast is colder than the East Coast during spring and summer right now. Unless the clouds are cleared. Feel me? So look. So as I was getting to the total eclipse, I know that's Morse code. That number 2, that's Morse code. So Charlotte, North Carolina, Mystery of Babylon, the great mother of harlots and abominations of earth. So that's what I'm looking at right now. A video on YouTube.
Applying the there is no God,
So I'm gonna just play
only
that
her,
out, you Spethel.
and furthermore establishes herself as a powerful one, in that she refuses to be a widow and refuses to suffer the grief of losing a child. But she is not painted here in a positive light, but more so highlighted for her arrogance and blasphemy against God. Isaiah actually refers to her in this verse as a lover of pleasure, furthermore identifying her with the sin of adultery, or promiscuity, or even some sort of sexual deviancy. It is here we begin to get the first inklings as to where the whore of Babylon begins to take shape. It's almost as if Babylon the city and Babylon the woman become two separate entities here, both of which share the same existence, but have two individual forms. God continues to brandish her as a doomed woman/city, telling her, "Now then, listen, you lover of pleasure, lounging in your security and saying to yourself, 'I am, and there is no one beside me. I would never be a widow or suffer the loss of children.' Both of these will overtake you in a moment, on a single day, loss of children and widowhood. They will come upon you in full measure, in spite of your many sorceries and all your potent spells. You have trusted in your wickedness and have said, 'No one sees me.' Your wisdom and knowledge mislead you when you say to yourself, 'I am, and there is none beside me.' Disaster will come upon you, and you will not know how to conjure it away. A calamity will fall upon you that you cannot ward off with a ransom. A catastrophe you cannot foresee will suddenly come upon you." We get an insight here as to the personality of Babylon the woman. She is prideful in that she declares she will never suffer the loss of children. She dabbles in the occult, given that she is noted here as conducting sorcery and spells. She is arrogant, believing that no one sees her do these things, or that she is too great to be called out for the things that she does, and again, she believes herself to be above God, or something of a goddess herself, in that she is said to state, "There is no one beside her." God also announces the shame that Babylon will endure, and we get another insight as to how Babylon the woman would become this whore of Babylon that is referred to in Revelations. He states, "Go down, sit in the dust, virgin daughter Babylon.
What is a whore?
Sit on the ground without a throne, queen city of the Babylonians. No more will you be called tender or delicate. Take millstones and grind flour. Take off your veil. Lift up your skirts, bare your legs, and wade through the streams. Your nakedness will be exposed, and your shame uncovered. I will take vengeance. I will spare no one." Here, God seems to take away her tender and delicate appearance, potentially alluding to the fact that she was quite fair and successful in seducing men to her cause. Here,
Alright, so it sounds like that whore deals with the sun and deals with Easter, which I believe in reality is tomorrow. And on top of that, it deals with Ishtar, right? But I'm saying the sun, right? Because of this. You see that upside down triangle, right? Just like the one there on my sign. The upside down triangle, ancient symbolism, right? Because first of all, you gotta realize that all these symbols was symbolism of light. So that being said, when this just talked about a whole is a quotation, but we're dealing with energy coming from above, right? So continue.
God implies that she will no longer have this power, and that she will be forced to take off her veil, a veil that may have been hiding her true ugliness. Alternatively, God may also be referring to Babylon the city, in that Babylon will no longer be able to attract men to its walls, and that it will no longer bolster armies, nor adopt any more people into its state. He tells Babylon that her nakedness will be exposed, and that her shame will be uncovered, emphasizing that she will have nowhere to hide, and will be revealed to all as nothing but a wicked entity that is powerless against God, despite her former proclamations. In this, God demonstrates his own almightiness by reducing Babylon to the flesh of her skin, humiliating her before her followers, and forcing them to realize that compared to him, she's nothing. He ends his denouncement of Babylon by encouraging her to do her worst. Here, God almost encourages her to come at him, in that he tells her to keep using her magic and to keep casting her spells, because in the end, it will only make him look even greater when he destroys her. He implores her to bring her astrologers, who seem to be able to make predictions, and implores her to bring whoever she wants to
don't mind
battle
me.
against him, for he is not afraid, and will vanquish any who stands against him. In Isaiah 47:12-15, he tells her, "Keep on then with your magic spells and your many sorceries, which you have labored at since childhood. Perhaps you will succeed. Perhaps you will cause terror. All the counsel you have received has only worn you out. Let your astrologers come forward, those stargazers who make predictions month by month. Let them save you from what is coming upon you. Surely they are like stubble. The fire will burn them up. They cannot even save themselves from the power of the flame. They are not coals for warmth."
Why would the fire burn you up? Because your blood's toxic. Thing is, when you realize you're actually connected to these elements, but you're disconnected from these elements because of fear, it blocks the signals that you're receiving and giving off. Like, once you realize or detach from it, you can drain out a whole lighter from this fluid, because the flame won't even feel like heat. It will feel like you're touching water. Like, you know when you lightly touch the top of water on a pool and it makes that little gooey, or like, I don't know, it's like a cool sensation. It doesn't hurt you. Like, you have to speak to the elements like it's someone alive. Because if you tell them I'm you're me, don't hurt me, don't fight me, it picks up. You feel me? Because it's seeing that you're trying to pick up. So look, that's what I'm saying. Tap into them elements. Because your nervous system always protects, right? It's part of your nervous system.
This is not the fire to sit by. That is all they are to you. These you have dealt with and labored with since childhood. All of them go on in their era. There is not one that can save you."
A healthy smile is now more accessible than ever to achieve. For those in need of tooth replacement, the G4 implants.
Now that we have more of an idea of what Babylon was, or who Babylon was, or at least the female incarnation of
Pull
the
up.
city, it's time to talk about her involvement in chapter 17 of the book of Revelations. The chapter begins where an angel who John had previously seen pouring out the vial of God's wrath upon earth, that brings about terrible earthquakes and terrifying blasts of thunder and lightning, approaches John and tells him to come and witness the whore herself. He declares, "And there came one of the 7 angels, which had the 7 vials, and talked with me, saying unto me, Come hither, I will show unto thee the judgment of the great whore, that sitteth upon many waters, with whom the kings of the earth have committed fornication, and the inhabitants of the earth have been made drunk with the wine of her fornication." Here the angel could be referring to the alliances that the city of Babylon had forged with the other kingdoms, and that those who sided with her were made drunk with her wine, or her promise of further glory. It could also be a literal translation, that this whore of Babylon is the same female essence described in Isaiah, that she seduced the kings of the lands in her wake, and goaded them into joining her empire through sinful and devious ways. John continues that, "So he carried me away in the spirit of the wilderness, and I saw a woman sit upon a scarlet-colored beast, full of names of blasphemy, having 7 heads and 10 horns. And the woman was arrayed in purple and scarlet color, and decked with gold and precious stones and pearls, having a golden cup in her hand full of abominations and filthiness of her fornication. And upon her forehead was a name written, Mystery, Babylon the Great, the mother of harlots and abominations of the earth. And I saw the woman drunken with the blood of the saints, and with the blood of the martyrs of..."
Her third eye was the mystery that they've been trying to figure out. How does it connect? Feel me?
Jesus. And when I saw her, I wondered with great admiration. Here we get a physical description of the whore of Babylon, in that she is dressed in purple, purple being a rare colour in old times, and one signifying great royalty or lavish expense. She is adorned with gold and precious stones and pearls, furthermore giving us the idea that she is a beautiful woman, one
That's queen colors, especially dealing with the Orisas. Let's get it.
who spares no expense to look attractive, and one who holds her physical appearance in high regard. Given that she possesses such marvelous
High priestess.
trinkets, it's possible here that some might say she reflects the sin of greed. Clearly she has the resources to afford such wonderful things, and yet she is never seen to do any good with her abundance of wealth. She is never described as being charitable, despite all that she has, and is therefore perceived to be a selfish queen, and perhaps one who encourages idealism. It is also the first time we see her specifically associated with prostitution, as she is said to have written on her face the words, "the mother of harlots." As well as this, we also see the words Babylon the Great appear on her face, identifying her as Babylon, and consolidating the words of Isaiah and Jeremiah, who in the Old Testament speak of Babylon as if it were a woman. We also see men's beast, which the whore rides upon, and the angel goes on to explain just what this is. He tells us,
You know, like, something I just noticed? Babylon is saying baby lawn. Feel me? So, like, it's just like saying uh little something, big something, baby Jesus. You know, it should probably don't mean nothing, but
"The beast that thou sawest was and is not,
let's see.
and shall ascend out of the bottomless pit, and go into perdition. And that they that dwell on the earth shall wonder, whose names were not
Probably
written
do.
in the book of life, from the fountain of the world, when they behold the
It
beast that
always
was,
does.
and is not, and yet is. And here is the mind which hath wisdom."
Alright, so definition of lawn, right? LON says composed of German elements Leo, lion, and hardu, brave or hardy. Lawn embraces the meaning of lion strength. All signs point to Little Lawn has been a small but mighty force, proving big things truly do come in tiny packages. On this page, popularity trend chart symboling name ideas. LAN is a communication system which bolts allows vertical communication among all automation levels as well as free network topology with the two-wire medium TP/FT10. So this just ties right back to the Death Star. And the Death Star is pretty much a double electrode. It's a double electro hydro thermal hydro applicator. So it's a communication system which allows vertical communications among all automation levels as well as free network topology. Alright. So that just deals with everything we've been talking about today. LAN means in medical services level of assessments and screening tool to assess each individual level of need for supports and services. So, what's the meaning in Greek? Or Hebrew? Nichols. Okay, so lawn. Another meaning of lawn, right? Lawn is the suffix of Babylon. So lawn is League of Nations, the first permanent international organization for maintaining world peace, the predecessor of the United Nations. So this is the beginning of their bullshit, right? So yay means you. I thought it meant the. Either way, niggas don't be knowing what this shit mean. Alright, so let me just play this video again.
The 7 heads are 7 mountains, on which the woman sitteth. And there are 7 kings, 5 have fallen, and 1 is, and the other is not yet come. And when he cometh, he must continue a short space. And the beast that was, and is not, even he is the 8th, and is of the 7, and goeth into perdition. And the 10 horns which thou sawest are 10 kings, which have received no kingdom as yet, but receive power as kings, 1 hour with the beast. These have one mind, and shall give their power and strength unto the beast. These shall make war with the Lamb, and the Lamb shall overcome them. For he is the Lord of lords, and the King of kings. And they that are with him are called, and chosen, and faithful.
We're Rad Diversified. Through our different funds, we built a $100 million real estate investment portfolio in just over 5 years. And we did it simply by out-hustling everyone else out there.
Oh, you did?
And by developing a proven system for investing in numerous real estate markets.
It's great, bro.
As can be seen, the beast serves as more than just a formidable creature or mount for the whore of Babylon. Instead, it has a few symbolic meanings in this instance, whereby we are told the 7 heads it possesses are actually 7 mountains, and that each of these mountains are ruled by 7 kings. Some commentators believe these 7 heads are symbolic for the 7 hills in which Rome stood on, and therefore associate these heads to be that of the Roman Empire. We are also told that there are 7 kings, 5 of which have already fallen, which some believe represent the empires that have already fallen, including Egypt, Assyria, Babylonia, Meso-Persia, and Greece. We are told that one of these kings currently remains, which at the time of writing may have been Rome, and that one has yet to come, a possible reference to a new Roman Empire, or an empire that has yet to form in our current age. We are told that the beast itself is actually the 8th king, and that he will supersede the 7th king quite quickly. It is believed by some that this 8th king, or the beast itself, is the Antichrist, and that he will usher in a new kingdom, a kingdom for himself that is insidiously against God. It is decreed here, though, that he too will go into the abyss. The 10 horns on the beast are said to represent 10 more kings, and these kings will actually wage war against the Lamb, which the angel tells us is God. In some interpretations, these 10 kings are allies of the Antichrist, perhaps 10 nations which will support the Antichrist in his bidding to deceive the world into worshipping him. These 10 nations will operate with one mind, almost like a confederation of states that will work together to unify the world under the heel of the Antichrist. Interestingly, in Revelation 17:16, we are told, "And the 10 horns which thou sawest upon the beast, these shall hate the whore, and shall make her desolate and naked, and shall eat her flesh, and burn her with fire." Which tells us that the 10 horns, or the 10 kingdoms, will actually turn against the whore, systematically destroying her or the city she represents. In this, some have perceived that the 10 horns, or the 10 nations, will actually reveal themselves to be allies of the Antichrist, and that once the Antichrist is in power, they will no longer need the city, or the whore, and destroy that which they have lobbied to gain control of. Revelation 17:17 continues that, "For God hath put in their hearts to fulfill his will, and to agree, and give their kingdom unto the beast, until the words of God shall be fulfilled. Here we see that God himself is actually in control of these 10 nations, and it's almost as if he is using their wickedness to facilitate his own plan. He gives these nations who have allied themselves with the Antichrist exactly that which they wish, and punishes the people living in these nations who have allowed this to happen, by letting the leaders of these nations, these 10 kings if you will, to do as they please. He allows these nations to give their kingdoms to the beast, and allows for these people of these nations to see what it is like to live in a godless state, one in which they may have originally requested or thought was a good idea. It is perhaps only when they realize their folly will God return to set things right. The final line in Revelation 17 sees the angel tell John, "And the woman which thou sawest is that great city, which reigneth over the kings of the earth." Here we get final confirmation that the woman, this whore in this context, is the city in question, which some debate could either be Babylon or Rome, given that Rome would have been at its peak, whilst Babylon would have already been toppled at the time of such writing. It could also be in reference to another settlement altogether, for some believe that the whore isn't a city at all, but instead a system like Wall Street, Hollywood, or even today's political system. If you ask Nigel Farage, he will tell you that the whore is the European Union, or at least the 10 horns of the beast are. If this has been a little bit confusing, it's probably because Revelation 17 isn't exactly an easy passage to understand. It is littered with obscure references, and requires a lot of interpretation to really unpick it. I mean, the angel could have been a little bit more concise in his explanations, but he seemed to be quite elusive with a lot of the details. In any case, let me know if you'd like a more in-depth video about Revelations, or at least an in-depth video of the beast, which again has a ton of material to talk about, which I won't be able to cover here.
At Universal Technical...
Alright, so that was a story. That was a story called The Great Mother of Harlots and Abomination of Earth. But so there's another one though.
And there followed another angel, saying, Babylon is fallen, that great city, because she made all nations drink of the wine of the wrath of her fornication.
Boop.
Now, what is the wine?
111.
Wine represents false doctrine.
103.
Wine is a mocker, strong drink is raging,
Sorry.
and whosoever is deceived
112,
thereby
man.
is not wise.
No hate.
The effect of this wine is deception, because it is fermented wine, which leads people away from the truth.
So, in contrast to the first angel's message, which presents true doctrine, Babylon is preaching wine or false doctrine.
The darkness of night obscures from view the truth about the world around us. Confusion, like the darkness, has concealed from us the truth about the character of God. False doctrines and ideas are like the trees of the forest that change with the seasons. They blow about in the wind and rise and fall through the centuries. There's only one way to dispel the darkness, and that is with light.
Just like the clouds. Be the
Peter
light
tells us
below.
we have a more sure word of
So
prophecy.
connect above
Whereunto ye do
and
well
spread.
that ye take heed,
Clear it
as
out.
unto a light that shineth in a dark place. And with the light from these prophecies, we are able to identify the system called Babylon.
The system of Babylon is reflected by this woman in Revelation chapter 17.
So he carried me away in the spirit into the wilderness, and I saw a woman sit upon a scarlet-colored beast, full of names of blasphemy, having 7 heads and 10 horns.
The first 3 symbols that help us to identify Babylon are the woman, the beast, and the 7 heads. In order to arrive at a correct understanding of these symbols, we must allow the Bible to define them for us. So here's what God has to say about
Y'all
the
like and
prophetic symbol of
subscribe.
the woman.
I have likened the daughter of Zion to a comely and delicate woman.
It's entertaining.
Zion was the name
purposes.
given to the people of God. As we read in Isaiah,
Say unto Zion, Thou art my people.
so in the Old Testament, a woman is used by God as a symbol to represent his people. In the New Testament, a woman still is used to represent God's people in the form of his church.
For this cause shall a man leave his father and mother, and shall be joined unto his wife, and
Because what is the energy? Feminine. Let's get it.
they two shall be one flesh. This is a great mystery, but I speak concerning Christ and the church.
In the book of Revelation, there are 2 women. One is a virgin dressed in white, representing God's church, and the other woman named Babylon is a harlot, meaning she represents a counterfeit church, and she is the one sitting upon a beast. Once again, allowing the Bible to interpret its own symbols, we turn to the book of Daniel to define the symbol of the beast.
Remember, the true Messiah is spoken against the church. The temple is your body. So when it was talking about energy, it was talking about higher self, lower self energy, dealing with the body. Your brain is in between those 2 angels because you have to find balance in the middle of the 2. But it's not separating the 2 from itself, because when you do that, you get lost and confusion and a disconnection. So the 2 has to come together to find balance. For me, look at them. Like,
The 4th beast shall be the 4th kingdom upon earth.
According to Daniel,
they be really using Spanish priests.
a beast is a symbol for a kingdom or a nation. Since the Bible uses a woman as a symbol for a church, and the beast for a symbol of a nation, then this symbol of a woman sitting upon a beast is a symbol of
So the woman equals the church, the body. The beast is the nation.
church in control of a nation or a kingdom.
masses.
In other words, this nation is both a church and state power. Next, John says that this
Definitely
beast
right
has
about
7
that.
heads, and the Bible tells us what these heads represent, just 6 verses later.
And here is the mind which hath wisdom. The 7 heads are 7 mountains on which the woman sitteth.
The fact that this woman sits upon this beast with 7 heads tells us this church and state power is located near 7 mountains. John goes on to describe this woman in detail.
7D.
And the woman was arrayed in purple and scarlet color, and decked with gold and precious stones and pearls, having a golden cup in her hand, full of abominations and filthiness of her fornication. And upon her forehead was a name written, Mystery, Babylon the Great, the mother of harlots and abominations of the earth.
Our fourth clue is that this woman or church named Babylon is described as a harlot, meaning she has committed adultery against God by forsaking his covenant. So this church does not represent God's people. Instead, it represents a counterfeit church. Our fifth characteristic is the woman's appearance. She is described being arrayed with purple and scarlet colors. Having allowed the Bible to define its own symbols, we see God telling us Babylon is a church and state power located around 7 mountains, and it is a counterfeit church that appears primarily in purple and scarlet colors. There's only one church that fits this definitive description, the Roman Catholic Church, also known as the papacy. So let's investigate the
There's
evidence
always
for this
pros and
conclusion.
cons.
Vatican City is the
Of that
only church
symbolism.
and state nation in the world. It is known as the City on Seven Hills, and its primary colors are purple and scarlet.
Because look, the purple represents the head, the red represents the tail. That's why a higher state of red is purple. It's really a combination of all the colors makes magenta. So it's like a R1, R2 color spectrum.
During the Protestant Reformation, many of the reformers, including Thomas
Yeah, a R1 color spectrum dealing with light.
Cranmer, John Wesley, William Tyndale, John Wycliffe, Felipe Melanchthon, John Huss, Martin Luther, and hundreds of others all concluded the papacy was the harlot of Babylon, identified in the scriptures. I, for my part, will set free my own mind and deliver my conscience by declaring aloud to the Pope and to all papists that the papacy is, in truth, nothing else than the kingdom of Babylon and a very
Affidavit.
Antichrist. For who is the man of sin and the son of perdition, but he who by his teaching and his ordinances increases the sin and perdition of souls in the church, while he yet sits in the church as if he were God? All these conditions have now, for many ages, been fulfilled by the papal tyranny. First Principles of the Reformation by Martin Luther, page 197.
Thing about the church, bro. Like I said, your body is the temple, right? So, if your body is the temple, but your body connects to the planet, so if it connects through your nervous system, that means that the planet is part of your body, right? So, that being said, the church is still the body. It's everything that's omnipresent of God. You feel me? It's everywhere. Let's get it. But if you don't see God, you don't see the connection. Feel me? It's a reflection of you. I mean, you're supposed to be God's child, right? Would that give you dominion? Like, that's the thing. Like, if my parents passed down some shit to me, or if they had some genetic superpowers that they didn't know, it could get shown through me. You feel me? Cause this shit. Oh, let's just play this.
The second angel's message is a warning against the wine of Babylon and the intoxicating influence of its false doctrines which have deceived the entire world. Yes, even the Christian world. This great feat was not accomplished at once, but subtly over several centuries.
When you think about Jesus' statement just before he left, he said, "This gospel shall be preached in all the world, and then the end will come." We see the disciples going out preaching this gospel, but we see that the end did not come. The reason I believe is because that gospel became
Just like now.
tainted, and a different gospel began to go out into all the world.
In part 2 of this series, we saw
Thing that I noticed, even the false doctrine still shows you the real doctrine if you can know thyself. Because when you know thyself, you remember self. That's when it seems like reincarnation. Because the DNA is the oldest thing on this planet. So when you're attached to the most indigenous thing on this planet, which is the DNA, then you develop a memory, a past, future, present type memory, because it's dealing with the Akashi records. But, anyways,
How the everlasting gospel and the everlasting covenant are revealed
it's
through the
called the
sanctuary.
known.
But now we're going to take a look at a prophecy in the book of Daniel where the sanctuary comes under attack. That's what's really being described here, an attack on the gospel and the covenant.
But anyone destroying the Roman construct was looked at as a demon, because it was destroying what they were creating to go against the people. Right? Pretty much a global conscious project that started 3,693 years ago. If you subtract that from 2023, you get the year 1660 something. So then that makes it back to see it's 400 years ago. But
By replacing it with a counterfeit covenant.
According to Daniel chapter 8, the Bible talks about this little horn power that would defile the sanctuary.
Yea, he magnified himself even to the prince of the host, and by him the daily sacrifice was taken away, and the place of his sanctuary was cast down, and an host was given him against the daily sacrifice by reason of transgression. And it cast down the truth to the ground, and it practiced and prospered.
And the little horn, there's no doubt as you look at the sequence of the chapter that it's speaking about the Roman Catholic papacy.
Daniel's prophecy is telling us that the papacy would magnify himself and exalt himself even above Christ, the Prince of the host. And by the papacy, the truths represented by the sanctuary and Jesus' ministry in heaven would be cast to the ground. Instead of looking to Jesus as our high priest in the heavenly sanctuary, the people were taught to look to human priests in a counterfeit sanctuary upon the earth.
ooh, who's that in his hand? Look,
By reason of transgression, and
Holy
it cast down
Thursday.
the truth to the ground.
Holy Thursday, Good Friday, Saturnalia Day, all got something to do with this shit.
And it practiced and prospered.
Even Holy Wednesday, because it's a ritualistic thing. So when it's all rituals, bruh. And most of the thing with the chosen ones, they're trying to knock off your frequency so you can fall off. Because when you're not in the frequency, that ties to you not receiving it when it hits. You feel me? It just becomes pressure. It sets for a flow of energy. So that was the Mystery Babylon. Mystery Babylon, the great mother of harlots and abomination of earth story. So what's next on here? It says, forget everything that been said to you in your dreams. Or, hold on. Forget everything that's been said to you in your past or to know in your dreams of Christ or Antichrist, because everything is a lie. They are the same person. But there went up a mist from earth and watered the whole face of the ground. Right? And then it goes down. Look, bro, I already had this down packed. This is old. Feel me? This is old. You see the book? It's about 2 years old. Feel me? We just broke down the 15 in the Gina Marie investigation videos. right? Because it ties, that 15 ties to the little O, Omicron, which also ties to theta, the sleep state. Anyways, Omicron Piscium is a binary star in the constellations of Pisces. It is visible to the eye with visual magnitude of 4.27. It also has a position near the ecliptic, so is subject to occultations by the moon, right? So these occultations by the moon deals with it's supposed to be Mars, right? But it's been at Aries, right? Is involved a K-type giant star with a stellar classification of KO3. At estimated the age of 390 million years, it is most likely 70 cents per percent chance on the horizontal branch rather than the red giant branch. As such, it is a red clump star that is generating energy through helium fusion at its core, and it has 3 times the mass of the sun and has expanded over 14 times in the sun radius. It is radiating 132 times the sun's luminosity from its photosphere at the effective temperature of 5,004. Our sun is classified as a G2V star. G2V star, where G2 refers to the photosphere temperature of 5,500 degrees Celsius. V refers to the dwarf status. So remember, V refers to the dwarf status. So you know how I've been saying V2, the V2 charge deals with 2,000 megahertz. 2,000 hertz, which is 2 megahertz. So 2,000 hertz is dealing with 6D, or the sixth dimension, right? But the 6D, the D stands for delta or UV light. So that means 6 lights came together, which are pretty much 3 binary systems, right? Come together with 1 plus 1, the sun, right? So that creates a higher UV, right? It creates the 6th dimension energy, which is tied to the 666, the psi chi sigma, right? The 666 ties to carbon, 6 protons, 6 neutrons, 6 electrons, right? That's floating around, but it interacts with the atom. So when that interacts in the blood of air, it's going to interact with the blood of air inside your body because it's connected. That's how they disconnected you, by disconnecting what be going on with the planet, right? The V also stands for a charge, but that 2 stands for 2 megahertz. So right here it says the V refers to the dwarf status. The dwarf status is like it being a red star, yellow star, orange star, a white looking star, a black star. You feel me? That's what the that's a dwarf status. The dwarf status is uh the type of star it is. So red dwarfs being the smallest Low lumen, lost mass stars, hydrogen, helium release energy. Brown dwarfs are failed stars, orange, red, magenta, not massive enough to sustain hydrogen. Yellow dwarfs become red giants, and white dwarfs at the end of their life cycle. In the core G type, in the core G type, burning hydrogen and helium thermonuclear fusions. It's like a double electro applicator. Our sun versus Ant Aries, blue versus red. Helios, okay, Arcturus Alpha Bootes is the guardian of the bear. Our sun is classified as a G2V star. The G2 refers to the photosphere temperature at 5,500 degrees Celsius. The V refers to the dwarf status. The yellow dwarf becomes a red giant while the white dwarfs towards the end of the cycle. In the core, it burns hydrogen and helium thermonuclear fusions, meaning it fuses 600 million tons of hydrogen into helium in a process called proton-proton change. 4 hydrogen for 7 heliums, converting about 4 million tons of matter into energy. A G-type star will fuse hydrogen for approximately 10 billion years until it's exhausted at the center of the star. When this happens, the sun rapidly expands, cooling as it passes through the subgiant branch and expanding many times in size more than its previous size at the tip of the red giant phase. 1 billion years after leaving main sequence, after the main generate helium core abruptly ignites in helium flash, because the helium flash is what's going to generate the life force. That shit deals with helium. Because one thing I learned about the UV, actually when you in a balanced state under the light for hours, it changes your density up. And when you change your density up, it changes the thought of gravity, if of even being real. So it like say niggas would be on the moon, right? They be bouncing around, right? Your density changes the heaviness that's keeping you on the ground. Meaning one step can give you bunnies type shit. Because when the ground gets its charge, the air gets its charge, you begin to get your charge. So you start to develop different, you say you have the same abilities, but they're like way better. Because the life force that's being built out, that's how you fly and shit. That's how Jesus walked on water and everything. That's how Moses split the waters. And the waters was really the sky. But it most likely happened in the sea too. So like, it was all dealing with chi energy that you have within you, right? Because what happened to everyone who was in their path, most of them ended up by themselves. But what would they have in dominion over a certain element, right? That helped them with listening while they walk with God type shit. So look, a planetary nebula is a type of emission. Nebulas consist of expanding glowing shells of ionized gas ejected from the red stars late in their lives. All planetary nebula forms at the end of the life of a star of intermediate mass, about 1 to 8 solar masses, 1 to 8 equals 9. Our sun will form a planetary nebula at the end of its cycle. So once all of the red giant atmospheres has been dissipated, energetic UV from the luminous sun core or the planet nebula nucleus ionizes the ejected material. Absorbed UV light energizes the shell of the nucleus gas around the central star, causing it to appear as a brightly colored planet nebula. So this was a breakdown of what's going to happen. Just look up planet nebula if you're not trying to listen to me. I'll just give you the sauce. I don't really care about holding some shit in. So look, Operation Lusty, Hutchison Effect, Nuclear Fusion Part 2. So the blue Kachina, this process causes the star to gradually grow in size, passing through the subgiant stage until it reaches the red giant phase. Stars smaller than the sun will also generate energy through its fusion, UV, of its helium core, whereas more massive stars can fuse heavier elements along a series of concentrated shells. UV/Milky Way. The blue Kachina, our sun, has exhausted its nuclear fuel. Its core collapsed into dense white dwarf, and the outer layers are expelled as planetary nebulas. Stars with 10x or more around more than 10 times the mass of the sun can explode supernova as their inherent iron cores collapse into extremely dense neutron stars, or a black hole. Okay, so stars with 10x or more than 10 times the mass of the sun. Oh, fuck. Alright, so in this video of the harlots, right? They just said something about 7 heads, a lion or whatever. And then they said something about 10 doing, but 3 plus 7 could say it's like 3 zodiacs making 3 binary systems coming in with that one. Alright, so that would generate 6, but plus 1, the sun, 7. So, or Sirius, plus 1, 7. Cause that's actually a portal to A, B, and C. So then that can make the 10x energy through 6D because of the connections. And then that also makes sense because the Lion Gate portal, which the 4th one is to break the whole loop, because that's the thing. The 4th represented the 12, and then it also represented the rebirth because 12 is 3. And then it also represents the going around the 360, because it takes 4 times. Like say north, west, east, south. If you were to split the grid up with a cross or an X, those will become like 90 degrees angles, right? So the 4 times 90 equals 360, just like 4 times 9 equals 36. Like, that's why it never made sense to me when they said 33 levels of masonry, nigga. Like, completion is a 360. So, and then 360 just ties back to 369 because 36, 3 plus 3 equals 9, right? The 9 represents the X, and the X kind of represents the light, or the D, the delta, right? The tetracovalent bond, because this is how our cells is a reflection of this alignment, because they said a tri-solar system, or they're trying to say it slowly, but a tri-solar system is being conjoined. But the thing is, it's not a tri-solar system, it's a quad solar system, quadruple, okay? And the only reason of that is because Sirius is part of the alignment, right? But the thing about Sirius is a portal to A, B, and C. Just like we going back to Gemini, and Gemini is part of Orion, which is part of the protection. Getting rid of what's not supposed to be up there. So these shits that's falling from the sky, my guy, is the stars, those are satellites, right? And if shit from satellites fall out, what do you think is going to fall out that's connected? Planes, certain cars. Because most of these cars, bro, I remember I was so fucked up one time, but I heard the frequency in my car from a little clicking noise, right? But I never heard the sound behind the click. I always just heard the click. And it was a sound behind the click. So I realized that was actually a frequency being triggered, right? Because it's just like when your body knows something wrong, it triggers a feeling, a frequency to you to send to your nervous system, right? So that's when a car does. It alerts you when something's wrong because it's sending signals and frequencies. But the thing is, they studied cars, fruit, the planet, people's bodies, the brain. This is dealing with science, chemistry. No, it's dealing with biology, chemistry, and pathology. The big three. So it's like, that's dealing with metaphysics. So there's 10 times X shit. It says the star with around 10x, the sun is already going to be aligned with the 12 houses. So 10x is meaning a rebirth energy of the 9, because what happens when you get to 10? You restart 10, 11, 12, which is 1, 2, 3 when you add them up, right? So we can experience this total energy while we're dealing with 6D. Because the thing is, they're already connected. The thing about it is the magnetics field is depleting. So when you thinking something new is happening, ain't shit new happening. This shit already happened. You feel me? It already happened. Now we just seeing it happen. You feel me? Because look, that quotation, like I've been saying, is dealing with Aunt Aries, not the Mars. That's why Aunt Aries is not Aries, not Mars. You feel me? It's another red giant star, which they call the 15th brightest star in the sky. And for some reason, the 15th just kind of make me deal with a micron, dealing with the eye in the reverse. energy of the I is from Ayin is Zayin. Z joined the Z joined the Ayin, which made a binary system that creates a I weapon light from dealing with alpha omega energies, because you have to manipulate the natural energy to create something from it. So if it was something to manipulate you, it would be it's because it's connected to you. Like the universal cycle is our energy. It's our energy, right? So to manipulate the energy within, you have to manipulate the energy outside of us. Because the thing is, when you're not physically doing it, you're mentally doing it, right? So at the end of the day, that's gonna fuck with you spiritually, because it messes up a trinity. Like the trinities was showing you something, like how they say Christ, body, God, or whatever, Jesus, God, the Lord, whatever, however they want to say it. Look, there's trinities in everything, because everything works in three. Feel me? So look, it was kind of working four at the same time, but it works at threes. It works in threes. So that being said, the air of the blood, or the blood of air, is the air. The blood of the body is the planet. But the thing is, if they interfere anything that's dealing with the air and the planet, that interferes your body because it's connected, right? So in reality, when they're destroying nature, it's kind of like destroying connections of you. It's like destroying shit inside of your body. Because this is how we are actually the air of the blood, or we are the air when it comes to ancestry, because it's literally attached to our body. So in the Alpha of David, that could be actually written. But the thing is, you're being shown to know thyself, so you can see the reflections. The reflections is your assailant, right? The reflections is gonna help you, so you ain't worried about safety, stability, and security. Because once you see the reflection, you see it for what it is and what it's not. So like this fake ass Mars that they was showing, you probably gonna see that jump real soon. Cause I saw a red moon or a red planet that looked like Mars, but they had it surrounded by pitch black clouds, not no rain clouds, like pitch black clouds. And I really wasn't supposed to see it, but I turned out my neighborhood because I felt sus for a second. And then I turned back in, and as I was leaving, something told me to look up, and I saw that jump. But around the whole world, even the Pope, they was saying they never saw it. So that's when I realized niggas was capping and doing rituals and shit. So like, Aunt Aries is not Mars. It's not Mars. A micron and shit. This is when I was first when I was learning this shit, you feel me? I had to write it down so I can get it. Cause the thing is, once you get it, you could put shit together, right? Just like phi It's F. Because you know, alpha, beta comes together, create C, so you can see the light that's created from the D, the tetracovalent bonds, which creates electricity, the E, which develops the phi. No, I think I skipped something. Because F is phi, or G is phi, some shit. But yeah, it's the whole ABCs is symbolism of light in your cells. It's the alpha beta system because it's talking about the way the energy cycle gets along with the cells or the atoms. Cause atoms are cells, just another word. So outside of you, you have atoms. This is why I'm saying the air in the planet is literally a part of your nervous system when you're in the crown state. That's why they said be the head, not the tail. Because when you're the head, you're controlling your power. When you're stuck in the root, you're just manipulating your power against yourself or someone else around you, right? That's why you have to detach. Because this is what happens from that energy. Homolysis. And what is homolysis? Screenshot, screenshot this. Shit, they probably gonna delete this shit. Screenshot this. And screenshot this. The reactants. Alright. If you didn't screenshot it, yeah, screenshot this too. Yeah. I really be knowing what I'm talking about, bro. So look. The homolysis, loosening or hemolytic fission, is a chemical bond dissociation of a molecular bond. So look, by a process where each of the fragments, which is atoms or molecules, retain of the original bond electrons during homolytic fission of a neutral molecule with an even number of electrons, two radicals will be generated. That is, the two electrons involved in the original bond are distributed between two fragment species. The energy involved in this process is called bond dissociation. I have not realized I've been talking for the last 3 or 4 hours. Anyways, which is called BDE. Bond cleavage is also possible by a process called heterolysis. So bond dissociation. Bond dissociation energy is defined as enthalpy per mole required to break down a given bond of specific molecular entities by homolysis, symbolized as D. Is required to break a given bond of specific molecular entity by homolysis, symbolized as D. The bond dissociation energy is dependent on the strength of the bond, which is determined by factors relating to the stability of resulting radical species. Because of relatively high energy required to break bonds in this manner, homolysis occurs primarily under certain circumstances, which is light and heat. So when you seeing all these people drop, I just told you why. in scientific words, not my words, their words. You feel me? So light, right? The O bond is dibenzoyl peroxide. Is cleaved homolytically distributed by a radical to each benzoyloxy. You see that Zol? That's dealing with fentanyl. That's why they call it the zombie tranquilizer. Feel me? It's making them spots where that shit dying at. So look, the black clock. So look, the heat, right? Certain intramolecular bonds, such as the O bond of a peroxide, are weak enough to spontaneously homolytically dissociate with a small amount of heat. So now that we're back into the cycle of it rising because of the lunar eclipse interruptions was why it wasn't rising as it was at first. It was kind of like stuck or manipulated with weather, right? And that was used to make the carbon emissions to zero. Because when you make the carbon emissions to zero, that starts to eliminate bonds, dissociation bonds. It starts to eliminate them because cells aren't supposed to die, but they only die when unnatural shit is in the interference. So, meaning your cells are supposed to forever grow. Like the trees, they supposed to grow tall and long. Like, if you heard stories, they used to spread from country to country, state to state type shit. That's how long they were. Like one branch can go all the way to Russia or something like that. So like that's where you get your parallels from that's still connected through these vines. So like that being said, like the homolytic, when that shit happens, it creates paralysis. So now we in 6D energy. Back to 6 is what the ascension was preparing you for. The beast, right? The 6, like even Enoch, right? The 5D, that was the 5th gate. It opened him up so he could, yeah. So boom, a portal opened up within him due to the UV light that